welcome to another episode of the Duct Tape Marketing Podcast. This is John Jantsch. My guest today is Corey Quinn. He's a former CMO of Scorpion and now a dedicated agency coach. He specializes in guiding agency founders to scale with vertical market specialization. At Scorpion, he played a pivotal role in growing the agency's revenue 8x in 5 years to a remarkable $150 million. He's also the author of a book we're going to talk about today, Anyone, Not Everyone, a comprehensive guide for agency founders looking to move beyond founder-led sales. So, Corey, welcome to the show.
John, it is a real treat to be here.
So let's start with the title. I find myself always doing that because authors pick every word of a title so carefully. What's the big picture you're trying to kind of imply with this idea of anyone, not everyone?
So the big promise or the transformation that I wrote the book to really help agency founders with is this idea of escaping founder-led sales, which is a challenge that many agency founders will go through in the sort of the life cycle of their agency. And the way that I've personally seen this happen, both in the work that I do as well as in dozens of other agency owners that I've interviewed, is that the one way to become sort of independent of sales and also help scale your agency is to get really clear on who you're targeting. Not only just get clear, but specialize in serving a specific vertical market.
Right.
And the funny thing is that title did not come day one. It was a much different title. And it wasn't until I was working back and forth with my editor and I was saying, like, we were using the term, like, it's like something around you could do anything but not everything type of thing. Yeah. And that's where it was born from.
Well, if you don't nail this getting out of founder-led sales, I mean, you'll never be able to sell the business. I mean, to me, that's, kind of job
Correct.
Number one, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And there's a saying that I love that I heard somewhere that I think is super interesting, which is that you want to build a business that everyone wants to buy, that you don't want to sell, right? And that's a business that probably creates the freedoms in your life as a business owner that you want to have. So 100%. If an acquirer is looking at your agency and you are instrumental to the growth of it, that is not as interesting of a value proposition versus otherwise. Yeah.
So I know you go very deep into this idea of, you actually, I think I read it in your bio, vertical market specialization. How is that different from the sort of well-worn advice of pick a niche and, get specialized?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. The idea of niching down is very common. There's a great saying, the riches are in the niches. Right. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think the challenge is that it's a very vague idea of, like, what does that mean exactly? Does that mean I'm targeting, females between 35 and 50 who like donuts? Or am I targeting, flight attendants? Or what does that exactly mean? It's very vague. And so what I wanted to do is be much more literal and specific about when you want to scale an agency. One of the great ways to do it, it's not the only way, but one of the great ways to do it is to specialize in a vertical market. So in a way, vertical specialization is a type of niching down. By the way, you can specialize in what you do, like SEO. That's another type of specialization, right? But I personally like to help agencies. I'm really sort of obsessed with this idea of taking a vertical market approach, and I really care about helping people get there.
So one of the challenges, I think a lot of people hear that advice and they're like, okay, where's the opportunity? Lawyers or dentists or, and having never worked with those, markets, they just like charge into them. And sometimes it works. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they realize, I hate working with dentists. No offense, dentists, but so like, how do you make sure that you're making the right sort of decision? Because it is a decision to send your business down a track.
100%, John. And there are situations where it makes sense as a sort of an agency founder to start down that road on day one. But generally, that is not the way it works. Usually, it is an agency owner who opens their doors and does business with their family and their distant family and the local chamber of commerce, and they say yes to a lot of different businesses. And I think that makes a lot of sense. As you're launching your new business, you want to have revenue, and you want to kind of get it off the ground. But it is only until they realize that they can't get beyond a certain point because they're serving a wide variety of clients. They're a jack of all trades and they lack expertise in any one area, which has a direct impact in their ability to do things like, operationally scale, but also their positioning becomes very watered down. The market doesn't see their true value for what they are. They compete on price and they lose deals to lesser firms. And all of that results in slow and inconsistent sales. And all of those aspects bring the founder right back into sales, because when the sales isn't happening, that's the founder's responsibility at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. So what are some of the key steps? If I've decided, maybe I've been out there, I've had some success, I have some ideas about markets that I like, I've been able to serve, I've been able to add value. What are some of the key steps to really kind of positioning myself as the go-to?
Absolutely. So in that case of that generalist who's been around for a while, you have a lot of sets and reps. It's important as you're going through this process of verticalizing your agency to look at your current book of business and see, who do I like working with? Who do I, if I was going to fill my business with dentists as your example, what kind of life would I be enjoying at that point? Right. Because that's the whole outcome you're trying to create, is you want to fill your practice with a whole bunch of this type of business. And so you want to first thing you want to do is you want to look at your experience. You want to look at, like I said, who you like working with, what problems are you really good at solving for them, and are they willing to pay for those problems? That's number one. You want to look at your current business. Number two, you want to look at the market, because you don't want to target an audience that is too small or maybe too big. If you're targeting an audience that has a small budget inherently, and you charge $10,000 a month, and they, on average, the average business owner in that industry makes, $100,000 a year, you're gonna have a hard time finding clients. And so there's an aspect of it where, number one, you have to feel like you're good at it. And you want to work with these folks. But then number two, that the market that you're going after is what I call, you have to validate it. You have to validate it's not only large enough, but that it is a good fit for the kind of business you want to create.
I have people come to me all the time and say that I want to work with X. And I was like, well, they don't spend money on marketing at all. That might be a slog for you. Yeah.
And the number I like to use as sort of a benchmark is, when you're doing the market research, does the average business in this vertical make $1 million a year? Mm-hmm. This is specifically in the context of marketing agencies. And the math is, if they make $1 million a year and they spend 10% of that revenue on marketing per year, which is $100,000, you divide that by 12 months, that's $8,333 per month. And you think about marketing today, you have to have a website, SEO, content, PPC, book, reputation management, do a podcast. All of a sudden you're stretching that $8,000 pretty thin. And so depending on the type of service you have and the type of, revenue you want to generate per client, $1 million is a good barometer to make sure that they actually do make enough money for you to justify targeting them.
have worked for years with various agents or various industries, and certain industries, certain verticals are just getting hammered by people that have taken this approach, right? Remodeling contractors, for example. I mean, get 10 pitches a day from somebody that says they're an expert in their industry. You have an outbound approach that uses gifting as a kind of a unique approach to really stand out, right? Because they get the 10 emails like, how are you different? Talk about that approach, Joel.
Yeah, absolutely. So the prerequisite is, number one, you have a vertical market that you specialize in, that you position your agency around. And then what you do is you want to, and this is based on my direct experience of working at an agency where we sent literally millions of dollars of cookies to attorneys. Another one of these markets that is oversaturated, you could argue. But the way that I teach my clients, what you do is, number one, you build up a 20% lead list. What I mean by that is, out of all the attorneys in the US, let's say you're targeting personal injury attorneys, you want to take that list and then you want to qualify it to identify what's the top 20% of this list that, if I can get them on the phone, then I have a very high likelihood that they're going to be a great fit. They're going to want to work with us. And so you create that list. That becomes your lead list for this gift-based outbound. The next thing you want to do is you want to identify a gift that would be unique. It would be striking, and it would leave a positive impression. You don't want to send like a ballpoint pen with your logo on it because that's too easy to ignore. And as a result of this 20% list, it's not very much of a sort of a spray and pray approach. It's much more of a quality over quantity. I've done things, everything from sending gourmet cookies to sending, alcohol to attorneys, to sending flowers to dentist office, you name it, video brochures. We've sent books, we've written books. Let me share with you the impact of this. When we sent cookies to attorneys, this is again an industry where there are gatekeepers whose primary job is to prevent me from getting in touch, talking to the attorney, right? So that's their job, is to like weed me out, screen me out. And so what we would do is we would send the cookies into the law firm. And these are, again, not generic cookies. These are amazing, like mouth-watering cookies. They would be put in a FedEx box, sent to the law firm, addressed to the lead attorney. Of course, it would go right past the mail room because it's a FedEx box. It would go right to the attorney's desk. It would be sitting there. The attorney would open it up, be this amazing presentation of cookies, which would end up in the break room. And then people would be eating these cookies and everyone's saying, gosh, who brought these amazing cookies? And it was like, oh, this company Scorpion. And everyone's like, well, who's Scorpion? And like, there's this buzz all of a sudden about this company that sent this amazing gift. By the time the salesperson called, which was right after the gift arrived, the gatekeeper would, the energy would be shifted from, who are you and who do you want to talk to, oh, you're from Scorpion. Let me put you through. He wants to talk to you.
So right? This is maybe a little in the weeds, but your research piece, like the list, targeting the top 20. Do you have some favorite kind of go-to, list sources or platforms or tools?
Bring up a really great point, which is that the list is typically thought of as a check the box, go to Apollo or go to Zoom Info and download a list or just use their interface. And the list is the strategy, meaning you have to spend some additional time on the list than you otherwise wouldn't. And so what I recommend doing, what I teach people to do, is to source a list from these third-party list vendors like a Zoom Info or Apollo, download leads into your own software, like, Excel or Google Sheets. And then you want to qualify those leads even further from what they gave you. You want to look for things like, what are some objective signals that I could see that would indicate that these businesses can afford my services, that they actually have the pain point that I solve? And you need to kind of go through these on a very manual basis. Unfortunately, I know we all like to go super fast, but if you're planning on sending cookies, and by the way, it's not just sending one gift, it's sending gifts for 3 years. It's not a one and done. It's an ongoing event. Every quarter you send them a gift. So that's even more reason why you want to just slow way down on the list, on list build. So that's kind of how I do it. Another place where you can find a high quality list is, every vertical market has associations. They have conferences. Right. And as you begin to target these folks, you'll be going to these events and you'll begin to build lists from those experiences where you tend to get really high quality leads from.
And I tell a lot of people, there are a lot of agencies out there, like 10 more clients, good clients like that would move the needle significantly, right? But they're trying to a list of 5,000, as opposed to that's a list of 100. Let's spend $500 on each of them, as opposed to $5 on, spray and pray approach.
And that focus. Yeah. And I think the focus is kind of the thing that helps you to stand out. The fact that you are sending a thoughtful gift, it could be a personalized gift to them. As I said, like, it's not just once. They may ghost you on the first gift, and that's okay. But then the next quarter comes, you send them a second one. And the next quarter comes, you send them another one. Eventually, you built up all this reciprocity. They're going to, at some point, right, say, okay, I got to talk to John over there at Duct Tape Marketing because clearly they want to talk to us, and they're being very persistent in a meaningful way. And we also know that people, every attorney, every dentist, they're going to shop for a new agency once every 3 years. Let's just call it that. And that's why the time horizon behind this strategy is it's a 3-year program. By the time that every single person on your list has been gifted for a 3-year period, all of them had an opportunity to go back to market, and you want to be on that list.
Yeah. So every industry has kind of key people. Everybody knows, maybe they're authors, they're big consultants, they're advisors or accountants or something in the industry. First off, how important is it to kind of get into some relationships with those folks? And then second part of how do you do it?
Yeah. Great question. So the part of the strategy, once you become a vertical market specialist, the benefit of targeting a vertical, or one of the unique benefits, is like every vertical is kind of like a village, right? And everyone kind of knows everybody else. There's definitely like a gossip train and so on and so forth. And in any one of these type of social circles of a vertical, there are going to be people that Malcolm Gladwell calls mavens. And these mavens are people that everyone else looks to make a decision on who to hire, right? And so as a vertical market specialist, as you're trying to build your reputation and visibility in that market, it makes sense to try and build a direct relationship with these mavens versus just going out to market and talking to anyone. I'll give you an example. One of my clients was focused on the chain restaurant industry. The industry of restaurants that had multiple chains. And there was a maven in that industry. He is the editor of a magazine called QSR, and he is prolific on LinkedIn, and he's at the keynoting the stage, the conferences on the stages and whatnot. He's everywhere. Well, as a result of identifying this person as really a maven that people look to as a tastemaker, we made a decision to try and find genuine ways to build a relationship with that person. Of course, we did that over time, and that resulted in a lot of opportunities for my client. That's number one. And then number two is what I call influential brands. And influential brands are effectively the same as a maven, but it is a sort of a big brand in that vertical that everyone else looks to. If it's good enough, if this company's, going to hire this agency, well, they're probably good enough for us, right? And I saw this firsthand at my last company when we were getting into the franchise world, multi-location businesses, and we landed the biggest, the most well-respected multi-location franchise business in the industry as our first client. It was through a relationship. And as a result of that led to a lot of really almost frictionless introductions in the franchise space, which ended up being a big growth engine for us.
It's funny, over the years, I've targeted manufacturers that have distribution networks, and the same thing is, bring them something, build a relationship, provide value, and they have they're very motivated to help their distributors. And so all of a sudden it's like, you're the person, and it's like, as you mentioned, it's a layup to get the business because, in some cases they even had co-op dollars to give them. Yes, exactly. And the reason why I think these things are important is you need to focus first. Once you get clear on who you're targeting, marketing becomes a whole lot easier. You know which keywords to target, which conferences to go to, what associations to get involved in. All these things become super clear. It's those agencies that haven't made this decision to sort of narrow their focus on this vertical market that are challenged with sort of this, like things I said, like, the watered down positioning, the ineffective marketing. So is it safe to say once you get good at one market, you can actually repeat this approach, or should you just stay narrow? It completely depends on the founder and their ambitions. I'll give you an example. The last agency I worked with, where we ran this play, we started off with attorneys, and then it was home services, and then franchise. And I think the way that I coach agencies on how to approach this is, number one, you want to get to about 3% of the total addressable market. So if there are 1,000, businesses in this market, once you get to 30, that's a signal that you probably have enough momentum in that vertical that you as the founder can lift your head and go find another adjacent vertical. What I mean by adjacent is it's a business that has the same problem that you're already solving, or it's a vertical that has the same problem, but not well served. So the example, my last company was attorneys, local service businesses, and then home services, local service businesses, both depended on Google for new leads, both needed a great website, reputation management, all of those things. That's what I mean by adjacent. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Corey, it was great having you stop by the Duct Tape Marketing Podcast. Is there someplace you want to invite people to connect with you and obviously find a copy of Anyone, Not Everyone? Gosh, John, I appreciate that. So the best place to get plugged into more of this type of content is my book, which is called, as you mentioned, Anyone, Not Everyone. I have the website, anyoneNotEveryone.com, where you can go and learn more about the book. So I invite you to go there. Awesome. Well, again, appreciate you taking a few moments, and hopefully we'll run into you one of these days out there on the road.